Kenny Sansom lies down in his glass and takes a sip of his tea. It's cold now, he chuckles. Still full. Because former Arsenal, Crystal Palace and England defender have been busy scrambling archives of an extraordinary life that has been swirling between the dark and limelight for nearly an hour. Sansom, now 64, has a lot of things etched into his mind. There are some things I will never forget. There is a lot he might want to hide. And there are many things he can't remember. Old and new memories are lost between the fog of Wernicke-Korsakoff syndrome, a brain disorder similar to dementia. Sansom doesn't remember much about yesterday, or the miracle that brought him here today. Kenny Sansom is rebuilding his life after a long battle with alcohol and gambling. Sansom would rise to the biggest stage of football every Saturday in front of his fans. Then, many conflicts in his long battle with alcohol and gambling. Homelessness and depression also appeared in public sight. However, what has never been told before is his incredible healing story. A touching story of rebellion that began in April 2020 when Sansom was attacked in a vulnerable situation. He stopped fighting for his life. He does not remember part where someone was taken to be questioned by the police. Exact details are sketchy. Sansom was in a coma. He was later diagnosed with Wernicke-Korsakoff. The doctors thought it was likely that he would never leave the hospital. When he contracted pneumonia, Sansom's family was told if his body went bankrupt, he would not be resuscitated. A few days later he woke up. For more than 18 weeks in the ward, Sansom had to relearn how to walk, talk, and eat. For a long time, his left back could only communicate with his eyes. The most remarkable of all? Sansom, hearing the story being retold, says, "I didn't know that. Maybe a blessing." It didn't make it easy for him. Doctors had to wrap Sansom's hands with gloves to prevent him from tearing the tubes. He once claimed to drink 9 bottles of wine a day. He slept hard. Sometimes he talks about finishing everything. After doctors got into a coma, they thought it was likely that Sansom would never leave the hospital before having to wrap his hands with gloves to prevent him from tearing tubes later. Despite being 64 years old, he now feels great, and will have reached a significant milestone in April. 3 years without drinking. There had been false dawn before. But during those months of hospital, Sansom finally broke the chain of destruction. "I feel great. I think April will be 3 years without drinking. It's a bit of a hassle," the 64-year-old says. "Drinking has ruined my life, that's all can say for sure. And now I know, physically know, I'll never drink again. Some days are easier than others." Wernicke-Korsakoff continues to blur his mind. Ataxia means that his balance betrays him from time to time. His squeaky voice is a symptom of COPD, which is a lung disease. "Sometimes I'm angry with myself. Sometimes I feel happy," Sansom says. Today, however, it has returned to where it all began. In a good mood. In his first interview since the attack, he says, "I'm turning to myself. The real Kenny. A lot of people say he's a joker. He likes to tell stories," Sansom says. "I'm doing a few shows." He briefly enters his best Frank Spencer. Apparently he's still making a good Tommy Cooper. But in this new episode, Sansom wants his own role. "I've played for England 86 times. I would have played a lot more if I hadn't drunk. I'd love to be able to help people who drink. Tell them my story. Tell you what you did. To inspire those who struggle, including young footballers. How about someone who drinks? This is very difficult, but I would like to help," Sansom explains. "It makes people confused and makes you stupid. I had to be funny. I would tell a good joke from time to time. I don't think they're funny anymore." In glory of the game days of 1980s, Sansom was a key player for England. In the 1982 World Cup, he played against Wolfgang Dremmler of West Germany. Sansom moves down the left wing at Selhurst Park. Just like in 1975, at the age of 16, he Crystal Palace and started Arsenal, Newcastle, QPR, Brentford, Coventry, as Everton did when he his career in a game that ended up 2 World Cups Watford and an out of league and Eli. God. It is moving towards a manager box that says, Legends, on the field. Sansom hosted fans here on day of match. In a far corner, his smiling face was painted against wall. The mural contains an excerpt from Terry Venables. Kenny is one of the biggest left-back this country has ever produced. No wonder, then, that Palace staff and supporters enjoying a tour in Selhurst Park took a second look and shook his hand. They appreciate everything Sansom has given to clubs like this, and everything he has lost in a few decades since then. A tour guide says, "It's nice to see you look so good. Here. Sansom is out too much these days." Coventry, Millwall, Bromley, Palace, England, Arsenal, went on a mini tour for charity work and football events. Wherever he goes, there are groups of supporters nearby. It's really incredible, Sansom says. They remember my good days and my bad days. He is now one of them. And when he gets the opportunity, he returns to Palace and Arsenal. There was pit stop on a recent trip to the Emirates. There's mural there too. Sansom says Mikel Arteta's crop is going really well. In January, he was among dozens of Arsenal heroes at the opening of the new stadium artwork. It was great to see the young people, Sansom says. The former captain, who led Arsenal to the 1987 League Cup, met with current captain Martin Odegaard. He met his old friends. It was great to see George Graham, a former teammate who had his manager in North London. Lee Dixon also made a lasting impression. "You were my hero. I was so happy to join Arsenal and play with you," Sansom said. This was nice. Sansom is fondly remembered at Crystal Palace and another London side Arsenal. Sansom praised current group of Arsenal stars who are at the top of Premier League. The peace and sobriety of these last few years has also allowed Sansom to enjoy more special moments. "I can enjoy my children and grandchildren. I can take them to football games. I can take them wherever they want, when I want. It depends on me." Now he has regained control. "I was a drunk." A particularly special moment came last February when her daughter Natalie married her husband Tony. "It was great to have him walk around the corridor," Sansom says. "You can never imagine that. Natalie and Tony are here today. Last year, in their happy rags, they went to that mural to take wedding photos. They had already traveled every day to visit Kenny in the hospital in Exeter and Hampshire. Regardless of the coronavirus, Tony was usually left out. Natalie's siblings joined him for a particularly touching Father's Day. Sansom's struggles strained even his closest ties. 3 kids. They're wonderful. Natalie, Katie and Harry, they're really my life. They really are. I think about them every day. He relies on them to understand where he is and how far he has come. Until then, visitors were excluded. When the doctors finally opened the curtain,